Welcome to the Strategic Plan, an audio series exploring 3 areas that are helping to shape bright, grounded, connected, and inspired students well beyond their years at Leo Baeck. We will dig into the topics of social, emotional well-being, and differentiated learning to see what these buzzwords are all about. And we will visit how teaching Jewish identity has adapted to meet changing times. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show. Welcome. This is an episode focusing on academic excellence and differentiated learning, specifically to ensure all types of learners and personal experiences, interests, and beliefs are leveraged to propel students forward and achieve even greater learning outcomes. My name's Toby Gottlieb. I am your host, Leo Baeck alumni, class of 1999. With me today is Danielle Applebaum. She's the Dean of Student Academics at Leo Baeck Day School. And we're going to talk a lot about, differentiated learning specifically and what Leo Baeck offers. So, Danielle, welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm doing very well, thanks. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. Can you just describe, for those that don't know what differentiated learning is, exactly what we're talking about here, and then we'll talk about how Leo Baeck deals with it.
Sure. So as educators, we know that learning is not one size fits all. It can't be. We can't always teach to the middle academically or socially or emotionally in terms of background. There's so many other pieces that we have to really think about, because students come from various backgrounds. They have different levels of interest. They have different primary languages and gender and experiences. They have different learning profiles, and their emotional wellness is different, and their peer relationships are all different. And more importantly, their motivation to learn is often different. And so there's a lot of diversity that teachers need to be aware of in the classroom. Differentiation acknowledges that students differ in ways that affect their learning. So when teachers proactively plan to address these differences, it can be more effective. When you have all of that information, then teachers can make common sense decisions about how their students are going to learn. And this is what differentiated instruction really is all about. It's ultimately a framework that's flexible and gives students access to methods that are effective for their learning. And it means teachers can adapt and diversify their teaching styles to fit all the students in their classroom. You can differentiate through a number of different ways. Through content, you can customize the specific content a student interacts with to align with their background knowledge. You might be, teaching about flight. And some students know an awful lot about flight and, aircraft and such, and other students come in with no knowledge. And I think it's really important for teachers to have that understanding before they get started. You can differentiate through process. You can change how material is delivered to best appeal to the student's preferred learning style. So thinking about auditory or visual or kinesthetic, a teacher can present material through videos, audio files, or reading text, among other different forms. Teachers can also differentiate through product. They can assess a student's understanding in a variety of ways, depending on what comes naturally to that student. So it could be, for example, creating a physical representation or a skit, or putting on some kind of oral presentation or a speech and to demonstrate their understanding, while others might be much happier presenting their understanding through a poster board or a written report. And finally, teachers can also tweak the physical and social atmosphere of the classroom. That's the environment, and that to best support their students' needs and facilitate their learning, because walking into the classroom with different social skills and peer relationships that may or may not have been impacted by what's happening at recess or outside or in the home can really impact how a child learns. And those student groupings are critical to how a student can be successful or not. So putting all of that together, it's about the teachers really understanding who their students are so that they can make good decisions for their students. That's what differentiated learning is all about.
Yeah, this is the most exciting thing to me to talk about because I went to Leo Beck. If this kind of structure was there for me back then, I think I would have had a better learning experience, whatever it was, 25 years ago, 24 years ago. It's a adaptation that I think is so important because we're learning so much more about how kids learn. And I was a pretty good student until I got to the point where it wasn't working for me anymore. And I think that if I had different ways of taking in all the information that the teachers were trying to convey, I would have been more successful. What I'm hearing Leo Beck is doing right now is incredible because it gives kids that might be more like me, where it was a challenge, the opportunity to learn in a way that is more suited to them. Do you find that it's incredibly successful how you guys are going about giving different tools to the students? Like you're finding success there?
Yeah. Yes, I think that students feel good about themselves in the classroom. I think they feel empowered and motivated and want to succeed. I think they're given a lot of choice because of how well the teachers know them. And that choice directs them and the teachers nudge them in the direction that is going to be best for them because they really truly understand who they are as a student. I think, one thing that Leo Buck does particularly well is really understand every student that walks in the door. The minute they come in from JK or any other grade, whenever they come into our school, we have a really good understanding of who they are and then can help the teachers to cater to their needs and ultimately empower them, the students to feel good about themselves and to be successful. And I think the teachers having more knowledge about how to do that differentiation, not individualization, but presenting choices and options and tweaks to their lessons allows students to be really successful. And the piece that tells us we're being successful is we have a survey for our graduate students after they've graduated from Leo Beck in grade 8, and then sort of halfway through grade 9-ish, they get a survey, and the school has been doing it for years, and consistently our graduates tell us that they feel highly prepared for high school in all subject areas, and socially, and in terms of their study skills. So not just in terms of the subject content area, but in terms of those soft skills as well, collaboration and, being able to build friendships and, manage their time and their self-management skills. So I do think it is having a positive impact. Yes.
Great. Can you share just a few of the myths and a few of the misunderstandings maybe about differentiated learning as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the myths is that differentiation is individualized instruction. It's the teacher coming up with individual lessons and activities for each of the 20-ish students in their classroom. It's not that. It's really about being student focused, using the whole group, small group, and individual tasks based on content and student needs. It really values the background knowledge and interests and experience of students. And it's about teachers making common sense, different decisions. So, for example, while it's not individualized, as I said, it does allow students to make choices that are good for them. So, and those choices are empowering and motivating. So, for example, persuasive writing. It's a very common text form that's taught to students, probably starting in grade 1. They start doing it and they continue through the years. And so, traditionally, a teacher would give, some kind of writing prompt like, write a paragraph convincing me why you should be allowed to chew chewing gum or why we should have uniforms in the classroom or something like that. So rather than doing that, we can use something like a raft activity, which is a raft strategy. So it's an excellent differentiation and instructional strategy that allows students to develop their persuasive writing skills. So RAF stands for role, audience, format, and topics. The student really has to consider who is the writer, who are they going to represent, who is the audience going to be, what are you writing for, or what is your format? So are you going to write a paragraph? Are you going to write a top 10 list? Are you going to write a guide? And ultimately, what are you writing about? So with guidance from the teacher, the student can be much more in charge of their choices. They can really cater their responses to their own personal experiences and their abilities, and that's a really great differentiated task.
And as part of I think what some parents who aren't as knowledgeable about what differentiating learning is, they hear the phrase and they think, oh, we're going to chop the student body in half, those that are knowledgeable and those that are not on a certain topic or whatever, and teach them differently because that's what's necessary for that specific thing. So that's not what this is.
No, that's not what this is. So differentiation is not, ability groupings. So, for example, the reading groups, the bears, the jaguars, and the eagles, where the eagles get to go outside with the challenge teacher, and the bears stay inside with the classroom teacher inside the classroom. That's not what differentiation is. It's not where a student services teacher takes a student and provides intervention or a challenging activity. That's not what it's about. It's really about the teacher understanding the classroom as a whole and all the individuals in that classroom and all the information that they bring forward, their background knowledge, their interests, their experiences, and their readiness levels. And it's about those teachers making those common sense decisions according to the student needs. So, for example, think of a student who knows their multiplication facts, but might struggle with problems like 36 times 12, which is, 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. Using the standard algorithm, that might be hard for them. But if a teacher introduces alternative methods like the lattice method or the Japanese method in a small group, or even the whole class, using visuals or videos, that opens up an alternative and keeps in mind that not everyone learns in the same way. Not everyone comes with the same background. And this strategy can make a difference for those students and allows those students to remain confident in their math class. Again, differentiation is not about those leveled groupings, those reading groups I was mentioning. It's also it's about readiness and implying that everyone is ready to learn, and we all need to be in this zone of proximal development in order to develop more readiness. Where grouping students, teachers look past proficiency and take into consideration the whole child, such as motivation, confidence, social skills, and even some at times cognitive abilities. And when you group your students by confidence, you can also apply instructional strategies to help either boost their confidence or leverage it to deepen their knowledge. So there's a lot of things to consider. It's really just, I keep saying it, but it's about making those common sense decisions because you know your students. It's not about sending students out of the classroom to get a math challenge or to get reading help. That's not differentiation.
Yeah. So going back to because one of the myths that I always thought about is that it was like there's 3 ways to learn. It's auditory, it's visual, and it's using your hands. And so that's kinesthetic. Thank you. Yeah. Words aren't my strong suit, even though I'm hosting a webisode. I don't know. But so how is that part of what differentiated learning is now?
So it can be a part of that, those learning profiles. A teacher may be teaching about plants. Grade 3, it's a big unit to learn about plants and growing and pollinators. So rather than just presenting the students with a textbook and having the students read the textbook and then answer some questions, which is one form. So if they are a visual learner, that might work really well for them. But if the student is more of an auditory learner, they might do much better by watching a video or listening to a podcast or something similar about how plants grow. So there are opportunities for integrating that learning profile, the auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learning into it as well. But it's only one, that's just one component. Right. I think that's just keeping one thing in mind rather than keeping all those other factors that I mentioned before in mind.
For sure. So this is your specialty, I've come to learn. So as a longtime educator in this field, Why is differentiated learning so exciting to you as part of the Leo Beck culture and also just in general?
So for my department and my role in particular, it ultimately means that the needs of my students are being met. It means that the academic wellness that I oversee is positive. It's high. It's good. Things are good for all the students. And the value of differentiated learning is tremendous because ultimately students are more empowered and take more ownership of their learning. They're more motivated and willing to push themselves outside their comfort zone. They're more likely to make progress in all areas. So that's why I enjoy it, and I think it's the right way, and it's really good pedagogy. For I not only work with students, but I also work with teachers, and it means that teachers have more flexibility to plan their lessons and tasks with the diversity of their students in mind, and not just teaching to the academic, emotional, and background knowledge middle, right? We want to avoid just teaching to the middle and keeping everybody in mind.
Thank you for listening to the Strategic Plan audio series. I encourage you to keep learning about what creates true educational excellence and how a strong Jewish independent school is flourishing right here in Toronto. For more information, visit leobeck.ca, go to the About drop-down menu, and find all you need to know on the Strategic Plan webpage.